If you'd like online business explained to you in a way that you can actually understand, go to latenightim.com/explain. It's completely free and I made it just for you. Now, how about an episode? Episode 201.
Late Night Internet Marketing.
This week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, we acknowledge the fact that maybe you're not selling as much stuff as you need to be selling in the current climate. And so we bring Ray Edwards in the house because he's got the answer. All this and more on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
The Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
You've been working for somebody else, but you want a business to run yourself. You want to know how to start and where to begin. Can you get out your comfort zone, my friend? Yes, you can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
And now, broadcasting late at night from a little studio in the big state of Texas, your host, Mark Mason.
All right. So I have an amazing guest today. This guy, I don't know what to tell you about him. He's truly a master at what he does. He might be the best copywriter on the entire internet. Certainly, he's one of the top 10 copywriters that are alive today on the internet. I mean, this is truly the case. He's written copy for people that you know. Probably the one that impresses me the most is Tony Robbins, but Ray Edwards is the guy people go to when they need to do 7- and 8-figure sales pages. And what's even more amazing than that is that he's a friend of mine and he's on the show. Now, it turns out that Ray is launching version 3.0 of the Copywriting Academy. I've been through the Copywriting Academy. It's where I learned to write copy, and it is amazing. I've also been inside version 3.0. It's awesome. I'm not here to sell you Copywriting Academy today. Ray is going to talk about copy, but I do want you to get involved in Ray's launch, because one of the things that Ray does in his launches for Copywriting Academy is that he does an enormous amount of teaching. So if you want to learn more about copywriting, if you want to sell more of the products that you already have, all you need to do is go sign up for Ray's Copywriting Academy launch, which is at latenightim.com/Ray. Again, that's latenightim.com/Ray. Go there and sign up, and Ray will start sending you information about master classes that he's going to put on during the launch. He sends out freebies and all kinds of different stuff like swipe copy. It's just a treasure trove of information just in the launch with nothing to buy. All you need to do is opt in at latenightim.com/Ray. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hear what Ray has to say. Just the information in this episode alone will be worth the time that you're going to spend here today with Ray.
Hey, don't touch that dial. It's time for another fantastic guest on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
So Ray Edwards, thank you so much for coming on today. You know, with all of the crazy stuff going on with the pandemic and so forth, my first question for you is, how are you and your family? Are you safely sequestered in the Pacific Northwest? Is everything good there? How are you?
We are good. When this whole thing began to come down and we got the shelter at home order, my wife, Lynn, said, so what does this mean? What is this going to look like? And I said, well, it's going to look like this. You'll stay home. You'll play with the dogs, do the gardening, do the things that you normally do during the day. I will run the errands, go to the grocery store, go to the pharmacy, be at my office by myself. And then I'll come home in the evening and we'll spend the evening together. And she says, oh, so nothing changes. Yeah, life is normal.
That's awesome. She's a very clever woman. Having had the pleasure to meet her, I have met her. I know that. So that's awesome. So the reason I called you in this situation is because I know a lot of people more than ever are needing to make their online businesses work. And in fact, we're hearing stories kind of cutting both ways. On one hand, we know there's a lot more activity online, which is good for online business. On the other hand, we know a lot of people with online businesses have been impacted. And it occurred to me that in this sort of environment, converting visitors that you have into buyers and doing that in a way that helps people is probably more important than it's ever been for people that listen to my show. And so I cannot think of anyone on the entire internet that's better at addressing this issue of taking visitors that you already have and being more effective at converting them into buyers. Can you talk a bit about that and what you're seeing right now in the midst of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think that copy is the ultimate upside leverage. So copy, meaning the words you use on your website, whether it's on your sales page, on your checkout page, in your emails, in your podcast and blog post titles, it's all copy. It's like the words you say that get people to take the action you want them to take. And by upside leverage, I learned that terminology from Jay Abraham, and he described it this way. He said, well, downside leverage is what most people have plenty of. Like the mortgage on your house is leveraged. That loan was leveraged against the value of your house. So if you don't make the payments, eventually the bank will come and invite you to leave your house and they'll take it away from you. That's downside leverage. Upside leverage is like copy in your business because you can change nothing. You don't have to change your staff. You don't have to change your product. You don't have to change your website host, your supply chain, change nothing, but change the words that you're using on your site or in your ads. And if your ad becomes 5 times more effective, that's all upside leverage. There was no risk involved. There was no extra money spent. In fact, if you can increase the conversion, you can actually decrease the ad spend. So you think about that for a minute. You could spend less and make more. And the only thing you have to be willing to do is experiment with and change the copy you're using.
So that sounds great. And I know it's true because I've done it, but I wonder if you have a story like that where, because you've done a lot of copywriting. In fact, I know you've written copy. I'm not sure that I'm supposed to say this, but I know you've written copy for Tony Robbins and some of these real big heavy hitters out there. So I know you've seen these cases where small changes that you didn't expect have made a big difference. Is there an example that comes to your mind where you were able to do that in the past?
Yeah, there was a client I was working with who had a natural health solutions company, and he wasn't selling supplements. He was just selling PDF ebooks, like deal with certain health conditions using natural methods instead of pharmaceuticals. And one of the ebooks he was selling was on how to reverse diabetes. And so he hired me to look at his sales copy because it wasn't converting very well. And he felt like this was potentially a much better selling product than it was showing itself to be. So as I looked through his copy, I realized, well, the thing you're missing is the amplification of the pain. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you need to show them what the consequences are going to be if they don't take care of their diabetes. And he said, when we tell them that, we talk about I said, yeah, you talk about it, but you need to show it to them both in the language that you're using. You're not talking about the fact that you could have skin ulcers that won't heal, that you could end up having to have limbs amputated, that you could lose your eyesight. You need to talk about those things, glaucoma, and you need to show them. And so we rewrote the copy over his objections, I might add. He's like, I don't want to do this. And I said, well, let me ask you this. If making this change made the difference in their life that they could live another 5 or 10 years, or that they could have a better quality of life over the next 20 years, would you be okay with doing it then? He said, well, sure. I said, well, I think that's what's at stake. So let's try it and see how it works. And it was when we first released the new copy, which amplified the consequences of not taking action, of not solving the problem, his conversions multiplied by 10.
Wow. 10, like 1, 0, 10.
Yes, like 10 times the number of sales, where he was getting maybe 1 sale out of 100. He was suddenly getting 10 sales out of 100.
Yeah, I'd say that's a big impact.
So, and I mean, that simple change, there's been a lot of other people he's hired to come in and try to beat that piece of copy. And many of them are big name, well-known in the direct response advertising industry, copywriters. So far, nobody's been able to beat that copy.
That's awesome. I love that.
Not that I'm proud of it or anything.
Yeah, I understand. So that's a piece. So obviously, you're talking about this kind of idea that people need to be motivated to buy, but you've got a whole framework, as I recall, that takes just not just that, right? There are more pieces to that. Can you give us the 30-second synopsis of what the big picture looks like for copy?
Yeah. So the framework is the PASTOR framework. And it's really, I just identified universal principles in all good copy and found a way to describe it that's easy to remember, but it also sets up a position that you're taking as I'm not a huckster selling something. I'm a shepherd leading you to making a good decision, because that's the original meaning of the word pastor. It means to shepherd. And so what the shepherd does is take care of the flock, care for them, protect them, make sure they have food, water. Shepherd is the caretaker. So I think if we think about our copy as we're writing it, all of us get a little squeamish. We don't want to feel salesy or sleazy. But if you're coming from a position of trying to help someone make a good decision, you don't feel pushy or sleazy, and you don't come across that way. So that's why I chose this word. And the letters of the word pastor stand for P, stands for person, problem, and pain. So the first thing you have to know is, who am I writing to? Who is the person that I'm solving a problem for? What is the problem that I'm helping them solve? And what is the pain in the way in they experience it? And the example I think that is clearest is, if you're helping somebody get healthy and lose weight, for instance, then probably as a health training professional, if they don't solve their obesity problem, they're going to have cardiovascular problems. They're setting themselves up for possible dementia, Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer. There's all these consequences that come from not solving that problem. Well, that's all true and important, but if you argue your case from that position, it's only going to get through to a very small number of people, because most people, when it comes to their weight, the pain as they experience it is they want to look better. They're embarrassed by how they look. They're ashamed because they feel like the fact that I'm obese means I can't control myself, and that makes me feel shame. So I would come to that market selling based on, first of all, maybe it's not your fault. Maybe you've been given the wrong information, which is what the whole low-fat diet movement did for people. It made them think the problem is fat. And as we've learned over time, that's not the problem. The problem is an improper macronutrient balance. I don't want to get into all that because I could start another argument. But the point is, you're describing the pain in the way in which they feel it, not the way in which you think they should feel it. And then the A stands for amplify the consequences of not solving the problem, amplify the pain. So fast forward them on the timeline and show them, this is what happens if you don't solve this problem. And A also stands for aspirations. You can quickly segue from talking about the dire nature of the problem to talking about the life they aspire to lead. Like, imagine feeling great when you take off your shirt at the swimming pool. And imagine what it would feel like to have a flat stomach. And you get them thinking about what they aspire to, which is actually another way of amplifying the pain, but it feels more positive. Because if we aspire to something, why do we aspire to it? Because we don't have it. S stands for the story of your struggle and the solution you discovered and the system you put in place so that other people can duplicate your success. And that's important because many people will look at your solution and say, well, sure, you figured that out, Mark. but that doesn't mean I can do it. So the things you need to show them in the course of your copy is, I did it, I helped other people do it, and I can also help you do it. Those are 3 questions people are either explicitly or implicitly thinking about as they read your copy or watch your video. They're wondering, well, did this person really do that? Did Mark really build an affiliate business? Has he helped other people do it? And is he able to help me? And then they have a whole list of problems like, I'm not very technical, or I think the market is saturated, or I think Amazon just cut their affiliate commission rates. So it's not doable anymore. And of course, none of those things are real impediments to stop them from making money as an affiliate, but you need to answer those questions as you're going through this solution portion of your copy. Some people call them objections.
Right.
I think they're just questions, because the fact is, if people are on your page and they're reading your copy or watching your video, there's only one reason they're doing that. And that's because they hope you have the answer to their problem. Otherwise, they would have already left. So then after the story of struggle, solution, and system, there's testimony and transformation. And this is where you have other people standing up and testifying, hey, Mark taught me how to do this and it worked. And I got these results, and he's a great teacher and he's a great coach, or whatever applies to your specific product. I mean, this works for e-commerce as well as for teaching and training and coaching programs, books, et cetera. It's all the same universal persuasion principles. So other people giving testimony and then describing the transformation, like your life is like this now, and it could be like this. And that's why, by the way, if you look at things like Beachbody, when they're advertising their exercise programs, when they're promoting Chalene Johnson's program, for instance, they show lots of before and after, because that's demonstrating the transformation. That's what people want to see. They want to know what's going to happen to me if I do this. And then you have the O in pastor stands for offer, which is, here's what I'm selling you, and here's what you get, and here's what it costs. You have to include that information. But I suggest you spend 80% of the offer portion of your copy reconnecting back to the benefits, the outcomes, the transformation. So it's not, you get 8 modules, and module number 1 is all about setting up your macronutrients. It's module number 1 is where you'll finally understand how to eat foods you love and lose weight at the same time, and watch the fat just melt off while you enjoy delicious stuff that you love to eat.
Right.
So you're reconnecting the content of the offer back to the benefits. And then the R in pastor stands for request a response. In other words, you ask them to buy. That's the quick, you said 3 minutes, probably 5 minute.
I like it. Well, it's super valuable, but I think I can hear people saying, yeah, that's fine for people who are writing a 75-page sales page, but is this kind of teaching and methodology? At the beginning, you talked about headlines and ad copy and all that stuff. Do these principles translate to all copy, or are they just for long page sale copy?
No, it's for all copy. It's for any time you're trying to persuade people of anything, including like listen to my podcast episode. So the title of your podcast episode is a headline, and the headline's job is to do one thing, to get people to read the next line. So if I had a podcast recently entitled How to Get Free Money from the Government. Do you think that's a popular topic right about now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then the next line is about the fact that I have an expert as a guest on my podcast, a guy named Casey Graham, who's going to explain what the benefits in the new stimulus package are and how you might be able to take advantage of them, how to know if you qualify, and how to apply if you do. And he also gives some tips on the right way to apply and the wrong way. And so now that draws people in. And in a couple of sentences, I've done most of the steps of the pastor framework. I've identified the person. I've talked about the problem they're facing without explicitly talking about it, because any business owner who needs money to operate their business right now, I don't have to tell them, well, in today's environment, you need money to operate your business. Duh. I just have to say free money from the government for business owners, and they want to know what I'm talking about. And then I say, I've got an expert who can tell you if you qualify. Wouldn't it be nice to have the government send you a big fat check that would cover your payroll for 2.5 months? And so now I've talked about the pain, the problem, how the pain feels to them, what the solution could look like. I've taken them all the way to transfer. As we talk about, as I say, many people have already received their deposit in their bank account. So there's the transformation. There's plenty of evidence to serve as testimony. And the offer is listen to the podcast, get the answers. And the request is click here to this podcast episode. So that's that. It took me longer to explain that than it would for somebody to read it. It's the formula.
Right. So, and it's obvious to you. And now that you've explained it, it's obvious to me but you've been doing this. How long have you been writing copyright? More than a decade, 2 decades, all your life? How does that work?
Since I was about 14.
Yeah. So some of the people that are listening to this episode right now, they're in a situation where they need to learn how to write better copy. They need to be able to do it themselves. Obviously, they're not hiring Ray Edwards at $10,000 a word or whatever a copywriter like you makes. So, how is that even realistic? Can you teach people how to do this realistically? Is that a thing?
Yes. The whole point in my making the course was the fact that I can't write copy for everybody. I can only work with so many clients directly, and I can teach the basics to somebody very quickly. So I started taking all of my techniques. I just started looking at, well, what am I doing? What's the process I'm going through to actually do this? And have explicitly laid them out in a framework that in many cases throughout the course is like fill in the blanks. And so that can get you big returns fast. In fact, the first module of the course, the Copywriting Academy, is it's called the Quick Start module. So it's like how to write some copy this afternoon that could make you some money tonight, possibly. I mean, I can't promise that. Obviously, that would be ridiculous.
Right.
If you're running ads and they're not working or they're not working well, you could change the copy and start seeing the results immediately. Anybody who's done any advertising knows that's true. So the question is, well, how do I effectively change it? So we give you templates you can use to change the copy or create the copy from scratch right away and implement it very quickly. And that's only going to get you so far. Templated fill in the blank stuff is only going to get you so far. That's why the course goes much deeper than that, because the outcome that I'm looking for is to have people reach the first level of being a competent, elegant, equipped copywriter who can begin to see these patterns for themselves and recognize, oh, I would rewrite that ad this way. So that I feel very confident, because we've seen thousands of people go through this course, and we've seen them go from not even knowing what copywriting was. I mean, lots of them thought copywriting was the little C inside the circle.
Right.
That protected their intellectual property. But we've seen them go from that to being good enough to write copy. They actually have other people pay them to do it for them or offer to. So for a business owner, especially right now, I don't think there's any more valuable skill or any more tangible upside leverage than to know how to go in and tweak, change, or create copy that will increase your cash flow as soon as you put the copy in the field. Doesn't happen every time, but it reliably happens often enough that people do pay me to do this for them.
Is there anything that gives you more excitement than setting a student loose with this thing and having them change their fortune with it? I know, like, Mike Kim goes around telling people that he was able to increase the revenue of that company that he worked for after he took your course by a factor of 5. So that must be really satisfying for you.
I love those stories. The fact is that I live for those stories. Anna Powers was an attorney who first came to our course because she wanted to learn to write copy part-time so she could supplement attorney and eventually maybe think about going out on her own. And within a few months, she had income as an attorney, writing copy. And she's gone on she's built her own business. She's doing coaching. She speaks. She's got high ticket mastermind programs that she does where she works with entrepreneurs. And we have story after story like that of people who've accomplished just that. And I mean, it makes me super happy. I love hearing stories like that. There's a gentleman who, we were on a live streaming broadcast together. We were both invited to be speakers on this broadcast. And at the end of the broadcast, he turns to me and says, I don't know if you remember this, but I was in your copywriting course and you literally turned my life around because I was at my bed falling apart. We were at zero. We'd lost all of our customers. We had to start from scratch. And my son and I took your course together and we worked on the copy and built our business back to now we're at 7 figures and just enjoying incredible success. And it's all because of this course. And we so appreciate it. And I mean, of course, I love testimonials like that because it helps sell course material, of course. But I love even more the transformation, seeing people change their lives for the better and getting out of dire circumstances. It's a great feeling.
Yeah. So I know we're getting into the time of the year, Ray, where you generally open Copywriting Academy back up. Of course, the timing couldn't be better. But my understanding is with Copywriting Academy, this is actually version 3.0, and you've done a major retooling. What I'm excited about is that your launches are always jammed with amazing, actionable information. Can you talk a little bit about what people can expect in the coming weeks and what's the deal with Copywriting 3.0?
Yeah, sure. We are opening the course back up and leading up to do these free training sessions where I give you the best ideas that you can put to work immediately in your business to bring in cash flow at will. In fact, we're calling the whole series Cashflow On Command. So that's what you can expect. You can expect 3 major training sessions where we walk you through the processes of using the Pastor framework, of wording your copy or rewording your copy in such a way that you can bring in cash flow as you need it, which for most businesses is, I need it now.
Right.
We have examples, we have downloads, we have video materials. I walk you through some case studies. So there's plenty of education material. Even if you don't end up investing in the course, my promise to you is you go through the training that leads up to it, you'll be able to use some of these techniques to make money immediately. I can't guarantee you'll make money, but I can guarantee you'll increase the likelihood that you.
Very good. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I know you've got a lot going on with the launch coming up, and I appreciate your time. I want you to stay safe, stay locked down, and remember to wash your hands and not touch your face. How's that sound?
That seems like a lot to remember.
Yeah. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you very much.
Same.
See, I told you Ray was awesome. Go to latenightim.com/Ray right now. If you're driving, I want you to pull over first because, texting and driving, not a good thing. Browsing and driving, even worse. latenightim.com/Ray. Opt into Ray's launch materials. Trust me, it's going to be, like I said, a treasure trove of information that Ray is going to deliver. You're going to love it, and I'm so excited that you're going to have access to the information, the value bombs that Ray is going to throw down. Ciao.
You can do it right when it's late at night.
You've been listening to the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Be sure to visit lnimpodcast.com today to leave feedback for Mark. Download special bonus content, access the show notes, and more. See you there.
Until then, go and make some great progress on your internet business, one night at a time.
Business one night at a time.
One of the amazing things about copywriting that I wish everyone could understand is that copywriting is a thing that you learn and then you use it over and over and over again in every possible walk of life. Yeah, you use it to write long form sales pages, but you also use it when you're writing ads and all through your business, right? Every time you write a blog post headline, every time you call someone to action in a blog post or in some other form of copy like a podcast, you use copywriting. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're using copywriting, but once you become trained in it, you tend to speak persuasively. And that can help you in your relationships and in all walks of life. When you're getting your car repaired and you're trying to get the guy to do a little extra work for you or to do an extra better job. I mean, it's amazing how copywriting comes in. The benefits of it are just, they don't ever stop. And that's one of the really cool things I like about copywriting. The other thing that is interesting about copywriting, and it's something that I've always wanted to explore, is Ray didn't talk about this in the interview, but one of the bonuses he offers in the course is how to start your own copywriting business. And I've always thought that would be an interesting side hustle for me. I think I write pretty decent copy. I'm well trained by Ray, and I think I could run a successful copywriting business. I love the idea of that. It's something that I may want to do someday. But for some of you that are looking for a side hustle or an additional side hustle or an extra way to augment your income, actually writing copy for people professionally is a real option. And one of the neat things about Ray's course that he offers is that there's this bonus in there where he teaches you how to start your own copywriting business. So just something to think about. I think it's really cool. I love Ray. You know, Ray used to be an FM radio DJ, and he has promised me that he's going to give me some audio tape of him on the air on the FM radio years and years, decades ago. I can't wait for that. And when I get it, I'll share it with you. Ciao.
Late night internet marketing.
Hey, it's Mark again. I wanted to tell you one more time about this absolutely free resource that I have for helping people who are trying to get the big picture for internet marketing, actually get started and understand what all their choices are. If that's not you, there's no more content. You can skip to the end. But if you're someone who came to this podcast because you're searching for how to get started online and you just can't cut through all the noise, I get it. That was me. In 2007, when I was trying to get started, there were so many people throwing offers at me that I really couldn't even understand what all the different business models were. I couldn't understand how money moved around on the internet, and I couldn't really get a grip on what direction I wanted to go in so I could figure out how to move forward. I've created a free video resource for you just for that purpose at latenightim.com/explain. In several short videos, I just explained to you what internet marketing is all about and what online business is all about and the different options that you have for starting an online business. There's nothing to buy there. You just sign up for access and you get the videos just like that. So if that's interesting to you, or if you know someone who's in a same situation, send them that link, latenightim.com/explain. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what people are thinking that are in the exact same position that I was in more than a decade ago in 2007. In some ways, it seems like yesterday. And in some ways, it seems like an entire lifetime ago. Again, that's latenightim.com/explain.
Late night internet marketing.